Hi, I would like to take a moment and talk about Prince. Not the official story of Prince's life and career, which you all know so well, but my journey with Prince's music and how it changed and influenced my life. This is my personal Prince story.
Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to get through this thing called life.
As many of you know, I got into Prince's music in 1989 with the Batman album, but it wasn't until I listened to the Purple Rain album that Prince really started to make an impact on my life. Purple Rain was the next album I listened to after Batman, and it was two tracks in particular that had a huge and deep impact on me. As a child, I went through what too many children, including Prince himself, go through, a breakup of my parents. My father left home when I was around 9 or 10 years old, and you really can't underestimate the impact that this has on a child. The feelings of abandonment and guilt that this was somehow your fault, that if it wasn't for you this wouldn't have happened, if you were better behaved, and then feelings of anger that how can you do this to me? So when I heard When Doves Cry, I was stunned. He summed up all those emotions in one chorus.
How can you just leave me standing alone in a world that's so cold? The world is so cold. Maybe I'm just too good, maybe I'm just like my father, maybe.
It's easy now after all these years to be lazy to the lyrics and to just sing along without thinking about them, as it's become so familiar. But those lyrics are deeply personal and genius at the same time. And I realised, my God, I'm not alone. Also, at the time of hearing the Purple Rain album, I just met my first serious girlfriend. We all know how difficult and messy teenage love affairs can be and how strong those first love emotions are, and for me it was no different. But as a teenager, I suffered with terrible acne, which really hurt my confidence, and it was extremely hard to look at girls in the face, let alone ask them out, especially ones you liked. And it is an utterly soul-destroying experience. So finally, getting a girlfriend, who in another Prince quirk of fate happened to be called Wendy, was a huge event in my life. But I was young, naive, and not able to cope with what she threw at me. This girl made me jealous all the time, with talk of other boys and ultimately two-timing me. Enter the beautiful ones.
Baby, 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 what's it gonna be? Baby, baby, baby.
Prince again wrote a song that feels like it's been written for me. The desperation, passion and emotion in the screams was just, yes, this is how I feel. Do you want him? Do you want me? I gotta know. I would walk home most nights from her house playing that song over and over, sometimes in tears, sometimes in anger. Why me? What did I do?
What's it gonna be, baby? Do you want him? Do you want me? 'Cause I want.
We all have to start somewhere and learn, and we all get our hearts broken at some point in our lives. Mine was 16 years old, and after it was over, with Prince as my inspiration, I swore it would never happen to me again. After Purple Rain, I went further back and got 1999, and then the first four albums, also buying Diamonds and Pearls, which had also been released. Now 17 years old, I was on a real journey of discovery with Prince's early music. Dirty Mind had a huge influence.
There's something about you, baby. Happens every time. Whenever I'm around you, baby.
I loved the persona that Prince had, a total sex god, who didn't just know what to do, he also made songs about it. He was in control, and the women seemed to love it. On one hand he was dirty and damn vulgar, and the other romantic and understanding of a girl's needs. This just clicked with me, and I decided I was going to model myself on his attitudes. The fact I'd only had one girlfriend and was completely inexperienced mattered to me not one jot. first thing I did was to create a Prince mixtape that I'd put on when I bring girlfriends home. I put on tracks like Scandalous, Insatiable, Do Me Baby, International Lover, and When We're Dancing Close and Slow. Secondly, I wanted to copy Prince's look. I tried to find clothes that had a Prince look to them. Not an easy task. I did manage to buy a sexy MF sweatshirt, which I adored and still own to this day. The one thing I always wanted was the original symbol pendant on a long chain, like Prince is seen wearing during the Graffiti Bridge and Diamonds and Pearls eras. I did manage to get some symbols from concerts and the MPG store and later on eBay, but still to this day I've never got the exact one and an exact length of chain that I always wanted. I then studied Prince in his movies and live performances, remembering off by heart all his signature moves and expressions. I must have watched Love Sexy Live and Purple Rain concert thousands of times over and over, and the Sign of the Times performance of If I Was Your Girlfriend was a real highlight, and Prince just screamed what I wanted to be in that performance. So did all this hero worship bring me any more success with girls? Well, yes and no. I did manage to get a string of girlfriends, some of which I think I scared off with a mixtape, but ultimately my attitude and behaviour towards girls after being heartbroken was questionable to say the least, and ultimately not going to bring me happiness, or what I was really looking for, a true love. A few years later it was 1996, and two major things happened. I met my wife-to-be in May, and in November Prince released Emancipation. Again, Prince had released an album full of songs that just seemed to be aimed at me. In those first months of courting, my future wife, who also happened to be a massive Prince fan, Disc 2 was on heavy rotation. For those who haven't listened to Disc 2, it's basically full of romantic and beautiful songs about Prince's wife Maite, who he had married on Valentine's Day that year, so it was perfect for a budding romance. So much so that I proposed while the Holy River played, and we had Saviour for the first dance at our wedding.
Went on down to the Holy River. I called my girl and told her I had something to give. I asked her to marry me, she said yes, and cried.
I took my future wife to Prince's shop in Camden, London before it closed down. We purchased many items which we still have to this day, including a symbol, which now has pride of place on the wall in our living room. One of the songs on Disc 2 had some lyrics that were just me and how I was feeling at that time. After a few years of acting the big I am and playing the field, spouting how I would never settle down, I found myself feeling and thinking exactly what Prince was saying. The song was Saviour, our first dance, as I said, at our wedding.
Did I ever come this far without you, baby? What was I thinking? What was I trying to be?
In the song, Prince sings, "How did I ever come this far without you, baby? What was I thinking? What was I trying to be?" This was me, and just spoke to my core. He then goes on, "I used to say, no one lover could have me, but that was before my eyes had seen the light." Again, Prince is speaking directly to me, and throughout my life since discovering Prince's music, so many of his lyrics have been deeply personal for me. Fast forward to 2007, and Prince announces 21 nights at London at the O2 Arena. Now married and not living far away from the O2, we attended 3 of the shows, including an after-show party. And it was a few weeks after the after-show we found out my wife was pregnant. My little baby had been jamming away in the womb at the after-party, unbeknown to us. In tribute, we gave our baby boy Prince as one of his middle names. Although my son will never be able to see Prince live, he was growing inside at one of Prince's most famous after-shows. So Prince has been present to all the most important events in my life. First love, first heartbreak, teenage affairs, getting engaged, getting married, buying a home, and births and unfortunately deaths. Every single event has had a Prince song to go with it and helped in how I was feeling and to help me understand the world. Now he is gone. The lessons and the messages are still there for all to find. It's in his incredible body of music. His spirit is tied to his art, and you only have to know where to look to find him. Thank you for listening.
How beautiful do the words had to be before they conquer